Welcome to Machiavelli. Here, you'll uncover how true power operates, from the psychology of influence to the strategies that have moved empires and manipulated entire populations. Everything no one teaches you about leadership, ambition, emotional mastery, and psychological warfare is revealed here. Prepare to see the world as it truly is, a game of intellect, not of good intentions. Speaking too much creates a trap. Fears, motives, and vulnerabilities become exposed like fragile outposts, inviting attack. This is the core principle of influence: silence. Excuses lose their effect, and the urge to justify oneself or reveal obvious clues about one's nature fades. True power lies not in declarations or promises, but in silence and deliberate action. Machiavelli observed that open plans hand over power to the observer, and hollow words turn a person into a transparent figure, predictable and weak. Real strength is born from silence. Silence breeds mystery, commands respect, and instills fear. In the absence of words, others fill the void with their own assumptions about your power, attributing to you qualities that only your actions will later confirm. This is the invisible game of influence. The fewer the explanations, the greater the impact of your deeds. The longer you remain silent, the more weight your words carry. When speech undermines authority, silence builds an aura of unpredictability and quiet threat. People do not fear what is visible, but what they fail to understand. And within that fear lies the first step toward real control. Silence is not an action, but a conscious strategy that lets you steer events while others rush to explain themselves. Remaining in the shadows strengthens your position through silence alone. As those around you spiral into speculation and unease, you act decisively, without words, without warnings. Silence becomes a blade. It doesn't just protect, it shapes perception. The emptiness it creates forces others to fill it with their own fears, amplifying their confusion. In their hesitation, they misstep, and from that chaos, your triumph emerges. Machiavelli taught that control is about shaping perception, and nothing unsettles the mind more effectively than a well-measured silence. Words bind, but silence frees, and makes you invisible to those trying to decipher your intent. Silence also reveals the weaknesses of others. As you remain still, they grow impatient and speak for themselves, exposing their hidden fears and longings. While your intentions remain obscure, theirs lie open on the table. Silence is not passivity. It is a calculated, refined move. Great rulers, cunning leaders, and masters of deception understood that mastering silence is mastering the environment. To speak is to yield initiative. To remain silent is to set the terms. That's why the Machiavellian school values muteness over eloquence. Silence is not emptiness. It is a manifestation of power. In the fabric of silence echo the fears of those around you. And there, a silent and undefeated strength is born. Whoever yields to the impulse to fill every gap with words ends up forfeiting the game. Mastering silence leads to another revelation. Uncertainty is a crucial weapon. When your goals are visible, anyone can block your path. If your ambitions are known, they'll raise defenses. By becoming an enigma, you freeze the will of others. Ambiguity acts like a mist, throwing even the most elaborate plans into disarray. Without clues, no one knows whether to strike or retreat. In that hesitation, initiative dissolves, and you retain control. The most brilliant tacticians avoid the obvious route. They disguise their paths and scatter misleading signals, encouraging others to invent false interpretations. They know that in the struggle for dominance, brute force alone is not enough. Appearances matter, too. Weakness, innocence, or camaraderie must be played convincingly. In this way, they hide the blade behind a kind smile. Machiavelli emphasized that excessive transparency forfeits control before the first move is even made. Those who wield power surround themselves with a web of speculation and doubt, forcing others to wonder where they stand, what they want, or what they intend. In that fog of confusion, opponents hesitate. Predictability is defeat. No one must glimpse your hesitations, dreams, or insecurities, because they'll seize on those weaknesses immediately. For this reason, a true ruler conceals even seemingly insignificant moves. Even false trails are laid intentionally to mislead opponents and steer them into flawed strategies. When you're perceived as a riddle, people attribute strengths to you that you may not even possess. Their fears do the work for you. Caution slows them down. Doubt eats away at their resolve. In that moment of hesitation, you strike with speed and surprise. The art of uncertainty is not mere restraint in speech. It is a deliberate influence over others' perception. You must obscure the truth while guiding the opponent's mind down false paths. Offer just enough clues to distract, but never enough to reveal your true plan. True control lies in managing what others know. The less they understand, the less they can stop you. Victory belongs not to the one who declares his ambitions, but to the one who fulfills them while others are still weighing the risks. The most significant victories are won silently, in the domain of speculation and fear. Seizing the power of uncertainty means mastering silence as a weapon of intelligence. While others rush to speak, exposing their intentions and insecurities, you remain silent. You gather every bit of information, every hesitation, every unnoticed emotion. And in the silence of others, the true nature of your interlocutors is revealed. Their fear, ambition, and inner panic rise to the surface. Every movement and word from those around you becomes a potential source of influence for the observant mind. As Machiavelli emphasized, those who listen more than they speak hold an advantage over their rivals. Words can mislead, while actions tend to unveil true motivations. Only a quiet, external observer can grasp that essence. They waste no energy on meaningless arguments, focusing entirely on the analysis of their surroundings. Nothing distracts them from the search for hidden details. Ideas and strategies emerge in the silent spaces between conversations. As others unveil their dreams and aspirations, the silent observer collects fragments of truth, assembling an invisible map of motives and personalities. The deeper the understanding of those nearby, the easier it becomes to anticipate their next steps and steer events toward a desired outcome. Silence renders this figure unseen, and deep understanding makes them untouchable. In a world where words lose value quickly, real power lies in the ability to withhold thoughts while grasping the intentions of others. By collecting a mosaic of details, the observer uncovers the weaknesses of those who see themselves as invulnerable. While others cling to justifications, the strategist builds plans and strengthens inner resolve. When the time comes, their move will strike with the element of surprise, because those who remain silent often know more than those who speak. True power rests in mastering the flow of information. By managing what is known and what is hidden, one can shape perception and amplify influence. The art of influence is not merely about gathering knowledge, but also about shaping how others perceive reality, without exposing one's true objectives. People don't see the world as it is. They perceive filtered versions shaped by their own beliefs. Those who know how to adjust these perceptions effectively determine the tone of others' actions, hopes, fears, and choices. Machiavelli argued that for most people, reality is simply a well-crafted illusion rooted in their minds. Controlling impressions involves more than concealing facts. It also requires subtly inserting fictional elements. Offer just enough truth for others to complete the picture in a way that favors you. Build illusions and leave hints. Allow people to see you as you want to be seen, not as you truly are. If your enemies believe you are weak, they may avoid attacking. If your allies think you are reliable, you can exploit their trust. While others get lost in fantasies, you fortify your real strength. The control of perception becomes a maze where even the most insightful minds get lost. Mastering information demands tight restraint. Every unnecessary word becomes a risk. True strategists avoid declarations. Instead, they act through subtle techniques, indirect cues, and carefully placed half-truths that lead others to draw the intended conclusions. Silence is not simply a shield. It is an active tactic, a quiet accumulation of influence that becomes undeniable precisely because it remains hidden. The more people try to interpret your intentions, the quicker they turn into pawns on your board. By mastering the art of perception, you unlock another layer of silence. Its ability to apply subtle, yet devastating psychological pressure. Where words lose their impact, a game of wits begins. Victory does not belong to the loudest, but to the one who endures the silence. Emptiness unsettles people. Their minds rush to fill it with assumptions, fears, and speculations. By refusing to respond or explain, you leave them in the dark, prompting their imagination to conjure threats often more terrifying than reality itself. This pause generates internal conflict. Those expecting praise begin to doubt themselves. Those anticipating anger spiral into anxiety, fearing a blow that never comes. In silence, they are forced to face their own doubts and fears, and that silent battle weakens them. Machiavelli understood that real victory isn't achieved through open confrontation, but by leading one's rival to collapse from within. Silence is one of the most effective tools. It compels the opponent to speak, to reveal insecurities and weaknesses. By refusing to react to accusations or provocations, you leave them without an opponent. They brace for a clash, yet you remain immobile and unreachable. In such a battle, those who fall first aren't the loudest, but those who cannot endure the silence. Silence acts as an unassailable stronghold, while words are laid out like fragile pieces on a table. When someone rushes to fill every blank space, their opponent uses the stillness to solidify their position. Quiet shatters expectations. Those who seek to provoke you crave an outburst of anger or a hint of fear, but by remaining composed, the surrounding atmosphere begins to crack. That tension becomes unbearable for those who intended to impose their script as they start to falter, make mistakes, and reveal their true intentions. In this way, silence proves not to be a sign of passivity, but a relentless tactic that exerts pressure on the minds of others. The longer you remain quiet, the deeper the other's insecurity grows, immersing them in uncertainty and paralysis. It is a subtle victory won without noise, a silent siege where triumph belongs to the one unafraid of stillness. Mastering this art of restraint leads to genuine power, the quiet control of events, leaving no trace and seeking no recognition. True influence belongs to those who pull the strings from the shadows, feigning inaction while reshaping reality at will, diverting all attention and becoming the hidden axis of the scene. Leaders who carve their own path move forward regardless of approval. Abandoning public glory paves the way for true mastery over events. This is where ultimate power lies. You don't just hide your plans, you become inscrutable to outsiders. While others scramble for recognition and applause, you quietly accumulate real influence. You shape conditions in which your rival's downfall becomes inevitable, and your victory is sealed the moment you choose to act. History remembers those who knew how to keep a secret. Richelieu ruled a nation without wearing a crown. Genghis Khan struck when least expected. Napoleon crafted illusions before every decisive blow. When your adversary is unaware of your plans, they're already half defeated. By rejecting unnecessary popularity in favor of authentic influence, you allow others to shine before the masses while maneuvering them like pawns on a board. This is how reality is sculpted, so the true architect of change remains unknown. Secrecy is more potent than any fortress. It's impossible to mobilize against an invisible adversary because there's nothing to strike back at. While opponents waste their strength battling shadows, you quietly pave the road to the summit. Thus, a silent presence becomes a powerful instrument. A true strategist doesn't broadcast intentions or wave banners, but acts from the shadows, depriving adversaries of the chance to prepare a defense. Power reveals itself where stability was once assumed. Its effect is felt in subtle shifts, while its source remains unseen. Moving in the shadows allows any obstacle to be bypassed. When a threat is obvious, people unite against it, but imperceptible changes leave no time for resistance to form. Those who cleverly conceal not only their plans, but their very involvement gain a significant advantage. The less transparent the motive, the greater the flexibility. While talkers are bound by their words, discreet tacticians unlock endless possibilities. To operate in the shadows is to design strategies without noise, amass resources unnoticed, and strike when danger is least expected. This approach allows you to hit where defense is weakest and withdraw before the enemy realizes they've already lost. In stealth mode, there are no obligations to the public, no reports, no explanations, no justifications. You become the sole judge of your steps, free from others' expectations and opinions. The most decisive victories in history belong not to those who engaged in open confrontation, but to those who shaped conditions that made success unavoidable. To remain invisible is to be deliberate, to see beyond others, and to act with such precision that the outcome seems orchestrated by higher forces. True strategy doesn't lie in loud collisions, but in unnoticed advances, steady, quiet, and unrelenting, where triumph is reserved for those who master the shadows. Silence, control of perception, command over uncertainty, the art of going unnoticed, and movement through obscurity define a powerful truth. Power is forged through actions, not declarations. In a world where many crave approval, exposing their intentions and demanding to be understood, the truly strong remain silent and act. Speaking may hint at a purpose, but only action brings about real change. Justifications are for those in need of support. Only the defeated reach for excuses. True victors let their achievements speak for themselves, leaving others to wonder how it was done. Machiavelli warned that those who wield authority neither rely on applause nor seek permission. They do not expose their inner selves to public judgment. They do only what is essential and present outcomes as accomplished facts. A victory achieved without prior announcement or noise strikes with greater force than any triumph proclaimed too early. Power shuns empty promises. It thrives on discreet actions and unexpected innovations that cannot be stopped because they arrive without warning. True dominion belongs to those who operate in the shadows and emerge only when the situation is already irreversible. The environment favors those who speak little and act boldly, who move in silence yet leave behind a trail of undeniable events, those who understand that revealing too much of their plans is tantamount to surrendering ground. Thus, over-explaining one's strategy or justifying every move weakens one's own position. Those who feel the need to explain their actions become prisoners of others' opinions. By contrast, those who move without announcing themselves shape the paths of others. Historical memory does not honor those who spoke endlessly, but those whose decisions altered the course of eras without ever declaring their intent. And this is just the beginning. Click on the next video to keep uncovering the secrets of Machiavelli, the brilliant minds of the past, and the mental weapons of the present. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and remember, knowledge is power, only if you know how to use it. See you in the next episode of Machiavelli.